U.S. Supreme Court in a 6-3
Record-breaking temperatures to devastating disasters. 2024 brought us
United Nations report the devastating impacts of human-caused climate change are happening now.
Today's IPCC report. You gained 15 pounds? His first word's going to be, all right, we're playing next slide.
One of my biggest fears,
baby, drill.
If you dress immodestly, you are magnifying this problem by becoming pornography.
I've always been a little nervous to depict any sort of rage in a painting. But the truth is I have been angry for a very, very long time. Every woman can recall a time where they were made to feel uncomfortable by a man. Every woman can recall a time they were made to feel small because they are a woman. At a young age, society trains us to view ourselves as less than a man just because we're a woman. You know, men are strong, women are weak, we're more sensitive. Men show leadership, and women are just a little too emotional to fit that role. We are told that women are too emotional, yet all wars have been started by men. When a man gets angry, it's what a man does, you know? It's just his nature. But when a woman gets angry, she's seen as overreacting or dramatic or unladylike. The patriarchy has been in America and around the world for thousands of years and has affected our society beyond just women. We live in a place where billionaire men trade the earth for cash. They trade our ecosystems, our clean air, clean water, and clean oceans for maximal profit. To the point where my generation is scared to have kids because the future of our planet is so unknown. We live in a place where wars and the erasure of a people are actively funded and supported. A place where women are deemed as objects that all we are good for is for pleasure or raising children. A place where 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck, while the 1% would rather go to space than help those on Earth. A place where political power can be bought rather than earned. When the majority of the powerful decision-making in our world is male-dominated, it definitely makes you stop and think. In a world where anything is possible, where anything could be achieved, and where humanity has advanced so greatly, it makes no sense to me that we are still so small-minded and corrupt. And yeah, I'm talking a lot about fear and sadness, but I wanted to make a painting that depicted this deep sense of rage. Not sadness, not despair, but rage. Rage for women, rage for the state of the world. I didn't want to depict somber rage, but rather a powerful rage. It has been said that men created religion in the patriarchy because they were envious that women can create life. And this quote really stuck with me, and this is not a hate on religion or anything like that, but it stuck with me because the mere fact that women can create life, whether they choose to or actually have the ability to or not, the fact that women create life, yet we are told God is a man, just makes little sense to me. We are embodiments of creation, and yet we are constantly told that our God is a man. It just creates this rhetoric that women are powerless. I wanted to create this almost like Mother Nature-like being that to me embodies what the divine feminine really is. A painting that shows Mother Nature taking her power back in the name of women, in the name of the earth, in the name of fighting against the corruption and patriarchy. Upon painting this, one thing I quickly noticed is I just wasn't really satisfied with the look on her face. It felt a little too passive, and I wanted to put more emotion onto her face, you know, more of that rage-like expression. And one thing I notice a lot in art, and this very much includes my own art, is kind of tend to depict faces with not that much emotion. It's, you know, it's more like a pose-like stance. I realized I never really depicted a very expressive face before, and so I wanted to really change that in this painting. I made her face mid-scream as if she is mid-action instead of looking like she's almost posing like in the previous composition. In the middle of this process, I impulsively added one of my personal art signatures of layering a doodle-like face over a composition. I do this in most of my recent paintings. It's a very impulsive and intuitive urge that I always have to do, and I feel like it's just really becoming my artistic style. It almost feels like I'm adding this extra layer of perspective or perception onto the painting. I started to work on the face that is in the woman's hand. I wanted this face to represent a mask that can represent many things. So much of being a woman feels like a constant performance. A performance where we don't feel complete if we aren't living up to society's beauty standards, if we don't live up to the expectation of others. This performance of contorting your personality and dampening your opinions to be more agreeable, because at the end of the day, you are always second guessed of your intelligence when you are a woman. The mask can also represent complacency, this feeling of powerlessness in a corrupt system we know is against us. Putting on a smile and going to work and pretending like everything is okay when the world is burning before our eyes. Most of us don't want to put on this mask, but we feel like we have no other choice. I wanted it to look like the woman is taking off her mask and revealing her true, authentic self. I wanted it to look like she isn't holding back, that she isn't afraid to show her rage and to fight back against a system that was set up for her to fail and a system that profits off of her insecurities. I added what appears as almost veins or branches coming out from her head, and I did this for a couple reasons. One, it was to mirror off of Medusa, but also, along with that, I wanted it to serve as a symbol of connection to a higher power and a connection to nature. We as women are so tapped into the spiritual and natural realm. We hold so much power within our bodies, and we are so deeply connected. I started painting the snake with its mouth wide open, almost as if it's about to eat the men. Again, I wanted to add some humor into this, some dark humor, I guess. But I thought it'd be really cool to go into also with the Medusa angle, the snakes are kind of coming from her body in a way, coming from her head. Back to the mask, I ended up having the impulsive idea to turn the mask into this robot face. However, throughout the painting process, I actually kept struggling with painting this, and I ended up changing it into something different later on, which you'll see. But I still liked the idea behind it. I think just stylistically, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I really wanted to incorporate some of the tiny men in some other way, and I ended up having a really strange idea pop into my brain. One fact that really sticks in my mind is that bee colonies, which first of all are 99% of them are female bees apparently, but the job of the male bees is literally to mate, and after the male does its job of mating, it will just kick out the male bees because they are of no use anymore. And I just found that very interesting because, like I said, it's very opposite of, our human societies. In the bee colonies, the females, they're the workers. They do all the work. They basically maintain the whole colony. The leader is the queen bee, and that's just so different than human societies. And I thought it would be really humorous to add a queen bee into this painting, basically holding a man and essentially kicking him out. I want to reiterate here that my intention with this painting wasn't to just be a big F you to men. While there are many, many times where I feel this way, and justifiably so. The men in this painting, more specifically, just overall represent the patriarchy that is so embedded in our society and the corruption and greed and control that comes along with that, a lot of times at the expense of women and minorities. And that's also why I made them so tiny compared to the women. I wanted to take these men off this pedestal that we've always put them on and show them for what they are, you know, especially the men in power currently. Like, all they care about is greed and control. I really wanted to show that in this painting and show that while they are trying their hardest to tame this woman down, they're of no match to her, because she is connected to something more powerful than even imaginable. My favorite part of the painting is these men that I added. I basically put them on this like stool, and they're basically holding a rope. One of them is actually falling off of the rope. Basically, the rope is tied to her left hand, and they are trying to control her and like tame her back. And if you look also below, I ended up adding these businessmen that are basically in this pool of fire, water, and money. And they're kind of drowning in their own greed and chasing that control and that power that is so external, whereas the woman is tapped into a power that is so internal. Ultimately, I am just really happy and satisfied with how this painting turned out. This painting, especially upon completion, just represents so much to me. You know, it represents colonization, it represents trading the earth for cash, it represents the control of women, because the reality is, throughout history and in present time, men view women as their puppets, a puppet in which they can completely control, an object that they can contort and shape and warp in any way they wish, someone they can just take and take and take from, and we just kind of have to sit there and look pretty. Because like I said, the worst thing we are told you can be as a woman is too emotional. You cannot be angry, you cannot talk back, because your duty as a woman is to please and to take care of and to be of service, and all while having a smile on your face. When I look at this painting and I look into the eyes of the woman, I see a different side of divine femininity. A lot of the times when we think of the divine feminine, we think of someone who approaches things with gentleness, poise, compassion, grace, and fairness. And while all these characteristics are so, so beautiful, I think there's something so powerful of a woman who goes against the grain and shows both her grace and also her anger, who takes on a more dominant energy and who is willful and determined to do what's right for the greater good without fears of societal pressure or uproar. That is the divine feminine to me, of going about things not out of ego, out of balance, and out of authenticity. There can be grace, but there can also be anger. We should be angry at what's happening. We shouldn't be passive in our anger or our emotions. We shouldn't shun them down. We shouldn't let a man's ego determine the outcome of our world and of our lives and how we view ourselves. We shouldn't feel small, even if the world tells us that we are. I really hope this painting can inspire people to feel empowered and realize that we have Mother Nature on our side and that she will always, always prevail, no matter how evil the world feels. I feel there's so much more I could say about this painting and what it means to me, but at the same time, I think like any art, it is entirely subjective to the personal viewer and what they see in it. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this painting. What do you see? How does it make you feel? And thank you so much for watching my artistic process. I'm gonna have prints of this painting available on my website in my description if you're interested and you resonated with the meaning of this painting. And thank you so much.